Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I am going to be doing a how to highlight, contour, and bake. This has been such a requested video for me to do because people are just curious. Like, there are so many people that just get caught up in all of the things that beauty YouTubers are doing all the time, and some of the people still don't know how to do the basics. So I'm here to tell you how to do the basics, girl. This is such a necessary thing to know, no matter what kind of level no matter what level you're at in makeup. Baking, highlighting, contouring, the basics of that are just something that you need to know. It's just a good thing to have. Know what you're doing, know how to tell somebody to do something if they ask you a question, because you want to be able to, help people out, because it just feels good when you help people out. It just does. So I'm here to tell you what to do, what not to do, why you're doing it, why you don't do things, and all of that good stuff. I know that there are plenty of videos out there highlighting and contouring and baking videos, like back when it became like a thing. I haven't seen any like recent new ones, but there's so many different things that have come to the table in 2018, 2019 for baking and contouring and highlighting. So I'm here to do like a little updated version of baking, highlighting, and contouring, and all that stuff. How many times can I say those 3 words in one video? Once again, we are back at it with the new hairstyle. We have a low slick back bun today, and I'm feeling it. These hairstyles are easy for me to achieve. You just throw it up, and I literally woke up this morning with my hair from my last video in a bun, and I took it down and I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, you didn't plan this out. You didn't plan this out. And I was like, I looked like I belonged in the Lion King or something. I literally just like pulled it back. It took me like 2 seconds and I look fine. That is not what this video is about, but yes, I really hope that you guys are gonna enjoy this video because I had a lot of fun filming it, and I like being able to teach you guys things and share my words of wisdom and things that I've picked up along the way, because I am a self-taught makeup artist, and I learned from people on YouTube. So I'm here to pass on my words of wisdom and things that I have picked up along the way. I also have a few tips and tricks in the video. And yeah, so I guess we're just gonna go ahead and get started. Okay, so first things first, I already have on a foundation. Any foundation that you know and love is gonna work just fine. I am going to be applying the concealer on camera today because that is part of the highlighting, contouring, baking, snatched process. So I am going to be applying that on camera. So I do already have on like my eye makeup and my foundation. So I am going to go in, and this kind of like depends on like what color what color concealer you use. Depends on like what look you're going for that day. So are you going for like a super snatched full coverage like we are today? Then the concealer depends, like it depends on what concealer you use, whether or not you're gonna get that look. So if you're trying to go for like, if you're doing full coverage and you're trying to go for like a really snatched, like structured look, then you're gonna take a concealer that's like, I go in with this color, it's light sand in the Tarte Shape Tape. This is like 3 shades darker than my foundation. So if you're going in to not do something super structured, like you're just doing like the basic, like you're putting on foundation, concealer, and maybe like some mascara, you want to go with a concealer that's either the shade of your foundation or like a shade lighter than your foundation. So I would typically go in with this one. This is light medium. And these are perfect because on days when I need to mix these two, I can. But for really highlighted days, I go in with light sand. And on days where I'm just doing like the bare min, light medium is the color I will go in with. But today, for the sake of the video, and I am going to be putting on a full face, I am going to be going in with light sand so you guys can see that it like really does bring attention to the face. So like a rule of thumb is to like go in like the diagonal. I know you guys, I'm sure, have seen that. But to go in like the diagonal, so I take a stripe like down the center of my nose, or like down like the side of my nose right here, because that's going to help with contouring the nose as well. And then I'm going to take a stripe underneath the eye. I'm running out, so just like don't pay attention to that. And then a stripe like right in the center. And that's like a decent amount. That's not a lot. Even though it kind of looks like a lot, it's really not, because we're going to go in with a damn beauty sponge in a second, and it's going to make sure that it's not a lot. And I'll go into that in a second. Okay, so I'm also going to take a little bit of that and just do a little bit on my chin. Like, just like a spot. Kind of like that. One down the center of my nose. And then I do one in the center of my forehead, straight up. One out. And then one out like that. Basically, the reason that you do this is because you're really, really highlighting the under eyes and bringing a lot of tension to them. So if you're just gonna do that, your skin is not gonna look balanced, because if you're bringing a lot of attention to the eyes, then you also need to balance it out and bring some attention to the rest of the center of the face. So that's typically why you would do that. On a day when you're like not going for like a full coverage look and you are using the darker concealer, you can just get away with doing it under your eyes and then you would be good. So I am going to go in with a damp sponge. And the reason that we like to use these damp, because more often than not, the questions that I get are, should I wet the sponge? Because a lot of people don't feel comfortable going in with like a wet sponge on their face, but once you do, guys, it really is like game changing for real. So yes, you do want to wet the sponge, and it's going to get like 3 times as big as it is when it's dry. And that's just going to help soak up any excess like product that's on your skin, so you don't look cakey, and we just have like a really flawless finished look. I honestly can't see myself blending out my under eye concealer with anything other than a wet sponge. Like, I just can't. Okay, so once the concealer is down, this is like the baking process. And on an everyday basis, I do not bake. For one, I have dry skin. And for two, I just don't typically do like a full face where I need to be baking and doing like the whole thing every day. But a lot of people do. Like, my sister bakes every single day. It's just like the way your skin is, your preference, how you do your makeup. It really does like have something to do with all of that. I am gonna obviously bake today for the sake of this video, because if I wasn't baking today, this video would actually be pointless. So I am gonna do my baking with my sponge, and a lot of people would not typically think to do that because it's like mixing a powder with a wet, and like that's just not something that a lot of people would do or are comfortable with. But it is so game changing, it's ridiculous. So you want to make sure that you've blended out all of your concealer. You want to make sure there's no creases underneath your eyes before you set it, because you don't want to like set the creases. So what I typically do is I'll take a little bit of powder, just a little bit, underneath my eyes to set my concealer, just to make sure there's no creasing, like just underneath my eyes. I don't take it down here at all. Okay, so moving on to setting the rest of the face. I always typically do this just because I like talk a lot, and there's just a lot happening in my life a lot of the times. So my foundation will come off like the bottom part of my face, looking for my powder. My foundation will come off like the bottom part of my face, so I do like to set my foundation. Also, I am drier. I don't know how many times I can say that I'm dry. Tend to use dewier foundations. So with that being said, dewier foundations, they're tacky, they come off easy, you know the drill. So I do typically like to set the rest of my face every day. Sometimes I will skip setting my face, like I'm literally just putting on foundation, you know? Okay, so now moving on to the fun part. This is the baking, the highlighting, the contouring, all that jazz. The reason you came to this video. So, going back to the powder that we used before, since we already did set the under eyes, we know for sure that there is not going to be any creasing with our under eyes. So we have already set those so that they're not creasing at all. But now we're just going to go back and lock all the concealer that we put down in place. So I'm going to use my same sponge and my same powder that I've been using, and I'm just using the Mary Kay Mineral Powder Foundation in Ivory 0.5. It is bomb, like the best powder that I have come across to date. So all I'm going to do is I'm picking up a lot. Like when I say a lot, I mean like that is a lot of powder. And you want to make sure that the powder that you have underneath your eyes is probably as thick as it can be, so that it can like bake the concealer. So you just want to stamp it. This is going to look psychotic for a second, but that's the baking process. This is psychotic looking, right? So a lot of people do like to bake the chin. I do, because like I said, I talk a lot. So my foundation tends to leave down there. Also, I like to bake my upper lip and around my mouth because I talk a lot, and that's just where my foundation leads me. Also, I like to bake down the center of the nose because that's going to make our nose look very like pinched and tiny, the look that everyone likes to go for these days. So I just take a stripe of it down the center of the nose. And I don't take it all the way down to the tip because I'm going to bronze that part because I want my nose to look a little more lifted. So I don't tend to do that part. So now that we literally look crazy, and some people do like bake the forehead and stuff. I don't like to do that. Sometimes I'll just take like whatever left over and kind of just like run it in the center. But I don't like to bake my forehead. So now we are moving on to contour. And a lot of people will say that when you're contouring it, you need to be using a like cool toned powder, or like whatever you're using should be cool toned. I disagree with that statement. I think that everyone's skin tone is different. Some people have warmer undertones, some people do have cooler undertones in their skin. Me personally, if I use something that's too cool, I will look gray. Like I don't have any pinks undertone at all. I am a very like neutral, even more yellow undertone, or like not yellow but more of like a tan undertone than anything. I have no pinks at all. So if I were to use a gray or like use a cool toned powder, I would look gray almost immediately, and it's just not a good look for me. So what I typically like to contour with is the Benefit Hoola Bronzer. And if I'm being 100% honest with you guys, I think that this is such a beautiful universal contouring powder because it's just so neutral that like on cooler tone people, it can look more cool toned, but on more warmer skin tones, it can look warmer. Like my sister has a extremely strong olive undertone, and this powder looks really, really warm on her. Me, it looks super neutral. It doesn't look warmer. It doesn't look like cool tone. It's just a really, really, really good universal contour powder. So if you're looking for something that is super, super universal because you don't have any experience with contouring and you've never done it before and you don't know what colors to get, I would suggest this one. And a really good dupe for this one, if you don't want to spend money on the Benefit Hoola Bronzer, the Butter Bronzer from Physicians Formula from the drugstore. It's a really, really, really good dupe for this powder. So with that being said, I am going to be using this to contour with, and I'm going to be using my Morphe M530 brush. And I really, really love this brush to contour because it's so like tiny, but it's tapered, so these side brushes kind of come out a little bit more, and these brushes at the top are a little bit taller, and it's just like a really good brush to like get in the hollows of your cheekbones, and I love that. So this is my favorite contour brush at the moment. So basically the rule of thumb when you're contouring is you want to start at the top of your ear right here, and you want to bring it straight down. Like if you were to do this, that line that you see, that's where you want to follow. So you do want to start at the corner of your ear, the top of the corner of your ear, and you want to bring it straight down to like if you were going to the like the corner of your mouth right here, but you want to stop about right here. So you want to stop like right about where your eyebrow ends, because that, if you bring it down too far, then you're going to look like a runway, and if you're going for that look, then great. But people don't really go for that look on me every day. So you do want to start at the corner of your ear and bring it straight down and stop about right here where your eyebrow ends. And I start off with a little bit at a time because it's a lot easier to add than it is to take away. And you just want to buff that in. And when you're blending, you don't want to blend downward because that's like defeating the purpose of contouring, and you're just going to make your face look rounder, and the whole purpose of contouring is to make yourself look more slim and structured and fierce, you know? So you don't want to blend, and if you're taking some of the powder away that's on underneath your eyes, it's okay. Okay, so that's like, you see how it's like not super warm, it's not super cool, it kind of just like, it's just like neutral. That's what I like. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing for this side. Bring it down here underneath the chin, because that's going to make you have a really structured jawline, like back here. It's going to put a shadow under there for you, and it's going to make you have a really structured jawline. And you also want to bring it up on your temples. Now, I have a very tiny forehead. I literally have a 3 head, so I don't typically have to do this step because my forehead is smaller. So basically when you're contouring, not only are you trying to make yourself look like skinny and like structured and like you just have a snatched face, but it is to make things look smaller as well. So you put it on the sides of your nose to make your nose look skinnier. You put it up on your forehead. A lot of people with bigger foreheads will put it on their forehead to make their forehead actually look smaller. I don't do that. I do take it up on my forehead, but I take it up on my forehead to make everything look balanced. So I don't want like there to be like contour bronzing shadows here and then like nothing on my forehead, so it's like super flat. But I don't do a lot. I just kind of like hit the temples right here and call it a day. So if you can see, there's a little bit of shadow there, not much. So that's what I normally like to do. I'll just push it up into the hairline so it just meshes with our hair and it looks natural, even though nothing about me looks natural right now, but that's okay. And I do want to point out that if you do get a little carried away with your contouring and like everything, especially on the forehead, all you have to do is take your foundation brush or like your powder foundation brush and dip a little bit more into that powder, or you can just like use whatever's left over and kind of run over everything, because that'll like mesh everything together, basically blend it out, so that everything looks a little more seamless and natural. I keep saying natural, but like everyone knows this isn't natural. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna bake underneath my contour, because as you can see, there's a line there and you can tell like it's intense in certain spots, but the bottom of it right here looks a little, you know, messy. I'm just going to be going in with this cheek brush from Mary Kay, and I really love it because it has this like angle. I don't know if you can see on camera. It has this angle, and I just like stamp the powder here, and it's just like perfect for that. So I'm going to take up that same, I'm going to pick up a little bit of that same powder that we used to bake underneath our eyes and just like stamp it under our cheeks. If you have the Morphe sponge and it has like a sharper edge, you could totally use that. But since I don't have that sponge, my beauty blender doesn't, or like my sponge has a rounded tip to it. So I typically don't bake underneath my contour with that. I'll use something that has a more straight edge. But I'm gonna go ahead and wipe away this bake. And if you guys are wondering why we call it baking, because it's actually a really cool concept. So basically we got this from like drag queens. So basically what it is our typical body temperature is 98.6. Everyone knows that. So basically what it is so like when you put an excessive amount of powder on your face, it like suffocates your skin to where your skin can't breathe. And basically what it does is your body's temperature, 98.6, it'll come to the surface, and since it can't breathe, it locks that temperature between your skin and the powder, and it literally bakes the concealer. Like it bakes it at 98.6 degrees, which is crazy because like, holy shit, like whoever would have thought. But isn't that so cool? So that really is why it's called baking, because it actually does bake. Like it cooks it good. So yeah, that's like a fun little fact there. So while I'm letting this bake sit underneath my contour, I'm gonna apply some blush. So what you want to do with your blush, I'm going to be using like a peachier blush. What you're going to want to do with your blush is, and I'm also using my Luxie 516 Duo Fiber brush. You guys know that I love this for blush. You want to take it on the side, and like you do want to put it on your cheeks, but you want to drag it back and you want to blend it into your contour or your bronzer. It just makes it look a little more natural. So you do want to smile to see like where your cheeks are. And then you just like want to take it back and blend it into your contour. That's going to make it look so much more natural than just having like pink on your cheeks, because that's not a good look. See how that kind of just like looks natural and put together and all that fun stuff? Perfect. Great. So now comes the highlight, and that really is everyone's favorite step. So I'm going to be using Champagne Pop, and there are so many different ways that you can highlight your face. If you want like a more overall glow to the face, I would suggest using something like this, which I have just recently used this for bronzer or contour, I think, because I like it for contour. But it is a highlighter brush. It's like a tapered highlighter brush, so you can like dip it into your highlighter and do like a more overall like glow to the cheeks, like add some to the apples of the cheeks, that kind of situation. Or you can go in with a brush like this, a smaller brush, and this is the Morphe 510. to get a more like precise highlight. You know what I'm saying? I will sometimes go in with this too and kind of just like run whatever's left over on my cheeks because I do like a glowy cheek. But basically with highlighting and contouring, you want to, when you highlight, that is the part that you want to bring forward. Like when you're looking at me right now, all of this is like drawn back, and like my under eyes and like my here is like popping out to you. Whatever you want to bring forward, you want to highlight. Whatever you want to like hide and like make it like not so noticeable, that's what you want to contour and bronze. So I am going to be picking up that on my M510 brush, and I'm just going to be hitting the high points of the cheeks. And what I like to do when I highlight is I like to bring it up and around, like up on the temples kind of, to where like you just like turn and it's just like the sun is hitting you in like the most beautiful way, even though it's not the sun, it's your highlight. So after I do that, you can kind of see that it's down on my cheek a little bit. I'll kind of like run over it and you'll see that I'll go back and do something else in a second. And also, when you are applying highlight, if you have a bump, like for example, I have like a remaining like bump right here. It's like flatter now, but like if I were to run over that with highlight, it would like pop out and you would be able to see it. If you have a zit, or if you have a scab, or if you have anything on your face that's like raised a little bit that you don't want attention brought to, do not highlight it. You don't know how many times I'll run over like a bump or something and I'm like, people from freaking Mars can see that thing. You know what I forgot to do? Contour my nose. Oh my god, I can't believe I even did that. Okay, so I'm gonna really quickly run over my nose, and I'm also gonna show you another little trick. I'm gonna use this Alter Ego brush that I got. They sent it as like they sent this to me as like a eyeshadow brush, but I have recently fallen in love with it for nose contouring. So, because it's got like a really pointy tapered end, so it's gonna like diffuse it really well because it's got a lot of bristles around it. So what I like to do is I like to start in the middle, kind of like more down here on the end, because that is where I want the most pigment to be, and I bring it up and I connect it with my brow. This is why we baked our nose earlier. I'm gonna go back in and do it again in a second so I can show you guys. And I've been just liking this brush all over for like a contouring of the nose, because I'll wipe off the product that was on it and I'll pick up that powder because it's really good for this. And I'm gonna like stamp it and drag it down the side of my nose because this is gonna help contour the nose a little bit more. Just like that. I know it looks kind of crazy, but it won't, like once I wipe everything off. And then I'm gonna take that brush once again and get a little bit more of that contour. And if you want your lips to look a little more pouty, this is going to be your best friend. Because if you just hit this contour right here at the bottom part of your lip and make a little shadow, it's going to make your lip look like it's naturally full. You see how I just like made my lip look a little more pouty and full? Such a good trick. Also, if you want to make, I have like so many good tips for you guys in this video. Also, if you want to make your Cupid's bow stand out a little bit more, I'm trying to find a clean brush because I really need to clean my brushes. Take a little bit of that on like a tiny little pencil brush, and if you want to accentuate your Cupid's bow, you literally just like pop it in there. You see how like just like this is kind of intense? I'm gonna blend it out a little bit. See how I just like accentuated my Cupid's bow a little bit more? So those are some tricks to make your lips look a little more pouty. So I'm going to continue highlighting, and I like to highlight basically everywhere because once again, I have dry skin. So I like to highlight my chin. I'm just going to go ahead and like highlight the tip of my nose and kind of like drag it up the center of my nose, kind of like dusting off that bakage as I go. And then I also like to highlight the Cupid's bow. This is a perfect place to highlight because you've contoured the center of it and now you're accentuating the outside of it, and your lips are just going to be looking real nice. And I also like to hit up here above the brow, not hitting that bump, just to kind of make it look like you're glowing all over, you know? Once I've done that, I'm going to go back in with my blush brush with literally nothing else on it and kind of just like brush over everything that's on my cheeks to kind of make it look a little more seamless and blended. All right, so now we are going to dust away this bake back in with the brush that I applied it with and just kind of dust it all away. Now that we've dusted away that, I'm gonna dust away the sides of my nose, and you're gonna see that it makes my nose just look a little more skinny and snatched and structured than it really is. So now we are gonna go ahead and set the face. Sorry if my angle just changed, or like I feel like you were like really close. Setting your face is one of the most important steps to baking and all of that jazz, because you're applying so much powder to your face that if you don't set it, it's gonna be thick and it's gonna look powdery. Like you just added so much powder to your face, like it's gonna look powdery. So you wanna make sure that you're setting it so that what this does is it meshes everything together. So it makes everything look nice and blended and seamless, and that like you're just a glowing goddess. So I'm gonna go ahead and set. I'm just gonna be using the Makeup Forever Mist and Fix. Alright you guys, so that completes this highlight contour baking video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something from it. If you have any more questions that I did not answer in this video, please comment them down below, because that's literally why I do these videos, for people who don't know how to do these things. So I'm actually here to teach you. So if you have any questions that I didn't answer in this video, please comment down below, because I would love to answer them for you. I also just popped on some lipstick, some lower lash mascara, and some inner corner highlight if you think I look a little different, because I do. But this was a really requested video, and I'm glad that I filmed it, because I had a lot of fun just like going back to the basics. Like I feel like the beauty industry is just so like over the top and crazy and wow all the time, that like sometimes it's just good to like get back to the basics, you know? I love the basics. These are like my favorite videos to film, like just old school YouTube. Like I was coming into YouTube as old school YouTube wasn't becoming a thing anymore. So I was only filming YouTube videos that were like old school YouTube videos for like a little bit, and I like miss it. And I didn't even do it for that long, because as soon as I became a YouTuber, it was just like everybody was doing these crazy videos, and I'm just like, I just want to film makeup tutorials, favorites videos, and hauls, you know? But yes, I really hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please like this video. It helps me out so much. Make sure to comment and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see all of you in my next video. Mwah. Bye guys.